Stop overthinking with 6 powerful Buddhist teachings. Find peace with Buddhist wisdom. Title: The Silent Thief, How Overthinking Steals Our Peace and What Buddhism Can Teach Us. Welcome to Buddhist Stories, where we explore the timeless wisdom of Buddhism through captivating tales and teachings. If you've ever found yourself caught in the whirlwind of your thoughts, overwhelmed by endless worries, and searching for a way out, you're not alone. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that affects us all: overthinking. Have you ever felt like your mind is a never-ending loop of thoughts, each one spiraling into the next, leaving you feeling exhausted and disconnected from the present moment? What if I told you that this constant mental chatter is not only stealing your peace but also preventing you from experiencing life to its fullest? In this fast-paced world filled with distractions, overthinking has become almost inevitable. But the real question is, what if the way to break free from this cycle has already been shared with us thousands of years ago? Imagine if there was a secret one that had been passed down through generations that could help you quiet your mind, find true inner peace, and break free from the cycle of overthinking. Intrigued? In this video, we are going to uncover how ancient Buddhist teachings can help you understand and manage your thoughts in a way that brings true calm. These teachings have been guiding countless individuals toward peace for centuries. And now it's your turn to learn how they can transform your life too. But before we dive in, take a moment and reflect. How much of your day is consumed by worrying about the past or fearing the future? Imagine if you could take control of your mind and bring it to a place of stillness. Sounds impossible? Let's find out together. In this video, we'll explore the roots of overthinking, why it's so harmful, and how you can use simple Buddhist practices to shift your mindset and experience peace in every moment. But more importantly, you'll learn that the solution to overthinking isn't about stopping the flow of thoughts entirely, it's about learning how to observe them without attachment. This key insight can change everything. Stay tuned, as we break down how Buddhist wisdom can offer a profound way to approach your thoughts and find the stillness you've been searching for. So, are you ready to let go of overthinking and embrace a calmer, more peaceful mind? Keep watching to learn how to quiet the storm in your head, right here on Buddhist Stories. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who could benefit from this timeless wisdom. Are you ready to begin the journey? Let's dive in. By starting with a question that resonates with a viewer's personal experience, the opening immediately draws them in. The curiosity about the solution offered by ancient Buddhist teachings, combined with the promise of practical tools for peace, keeps the audience engaged. The call to action encourages immediate interaction with the video, setting the tone for a deeper exploration of the subject. Lesson 1. Focus on the present moment. In Buddhism, the present moment is considered to be the only time that truly exists. It is a simple yet profound teaching that can have a transformative effect on how we live our lives. As humans, we tend to spend much of our time either reflecting on the past or anxiously anticipating the future. We allow our minds to be pulled away from the present, making it difficult to experience life fully. Have you ever stopped to consider when the last time was that you were truly present, fully immersed in the moment, without the distractions of past regrets or future anxieties? Buddhism encourages us to break free from this habit and recognize the power of the present moment. The Buddhist teachings are clear. The past is already gone, and the future has not yet come. Only the present moment is real and accessible. This wisdom teaches us to release our attachment to past mistakes, regrets, and memories, as well as the overwhelming fears, worries, and fantasies about the future. By fully embracing the here and now, we can experience a deeper sense of peace and contentment. But how do we begin to cultivate this awareness in our daily lives? And why is it so important to be mindful of the present? The trap of the past, To understand the importance of focusing on the present moment, we first need to acknowledge how easy it is to get caught in the past. We often carry the weight of past experiences, both the joyful and the painful. Perhaps you've experienced a moment when a past mistake or an unfulfilled desire took hold of your thoughts, clouding your peace and preventing you from enjoying the present. Many of us struggle with the idea that we can change what has already happened. In Buddhism, there is a clear teaching on the impermanence of all things, including our past. Holding on to past regrets is like clinging to a piece of broken glass. It only causes pain. The Buddha said, clinging to the past is like holding onto a hot coal. It burns you, but not the past. Let me share a story to illustrate this point. There was once a Buddhist monk who lived in a remote village. He had been a successful merchant in his past life but had lost everything due to bad decisions. He often found himself consumed by regret, thinking about how different his life could have been if he had made better choices. One day, an old friend who was a respected elder in the village came to visit him. The elder noticed the monk's sorrow and asked him, "Why are you so troubled, my friend?" The monk replied, "I cannot forget my past. I had wealth, I had success, but I lost everything. Now, I am left with nothing but regret." The elder, with wisdom in his eyes, looked at the monk and said, "Do you see that tree in front of us? In the spring, it has beautiful blossoms. But when autumn comes, the leaves fall and the tree is bare. The leaves that fell in the past will never return, but the tree still stands. You must learn to let go of the fallen leaves, for they no longer belong to you. What matters now is the tree that remains, which can grow again in the spring." The monk, after hearing these words, realized the futility of holding on to his past mistakes. Just like the tree, he had the potential to grow again, and his future depended on what he did in the present. This story teaches us that while we cannot change the past, we have the power to shape our future by how we live today. The anxiety of the future. Now, let us turn our attention to the future. How often do we find ourselves preoccupied with what might happen? The future is a vast, unknown realm, and it's easy to become anxious about the uncertainties it holds. We constantly worry about our jobs, relationships, health, and finances, thinking that we need to control every possible outcome. But Buddhism teaches us that this constant worrying is futile. The future is not something we can control, and worrying about it only creates unnecessary suffering in our minds. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the future. It has not yet arrived, and worrying about it only brings suffering." By focusing too much on what is to come, we prevent ourselves from fully experiencing the richness of the present moment. We live in fear of what might go wrong, rather than embracing the possibilities that lie in the here and now. To help us understand this, let me share the story of a young monk who lived in a small temple high in the mountains. One day, the young monk was preparing to leave the temple for a journey to a distant city. As he packed his belongings, he grew anxious about the unknowns of the journey. What if the path is dangerous? What if I don't find food or shelter? What if something happens to me on the way? The more he thought about these possibilities, the more fearful he became. His mind raced with doubts and worries. An older monk, noticing his anxiety, approached him and asked, "Why are you troubled, my son?" The young monk replied, "I fear the unknown. I do not know what the journey holds, and I am afraid of what might happen." The older monk smiled gently and said, "The journey ahead is like a cloud. It will come and go. There is no need to worry about what you cannot control. Instead, focus on the step you are taking right now. The future will unfold in its own time, and worrying about it only clouds your path." The young monk, after hearing these words, took a deep breath and decided to focus only on his next step. As he began his journey, he noticed how his fear began to dissipate. Instead of being overwhelmed by what might happen, he embraced the present moment, trusting that he could handle whatever came his way. This story highlights the importance of not allowing the fear of the future to overshadow our ability to live fully in the present. The future may hold challenges, but by focusing on the here and now, we are better able to navigate whatever comes our way with a calm and clear mind. The power of the present moment. The present moment is where life unfolds. It is the only time we can truly experience, and it is the source of all peace and happiness. When we focus on the present, we begin to see life in its fullness. Every moment becomes an opportunity for mindfulness and connection to the world around us. Buddhism teaches us that the present is a gift, and by living fully in it, we can cultivate wisdom and peace. The Buddhist teaching on mindfulness encourages us to pay attention to the smallest details of life, the sensation of our breath, the feeling of the earth beneath our feet, the sound of a bird singing, the taste of food in our mouth. These simple moments are the fabric of life, and when we are fully present, we can experience their beauty and significance. Let me share one more story that beautifully illustrates this. A Zen master was sitting in his garden, enjoying the peace and stillness of the morning. A student approached him, asking, "Master, what is the secret to happiness? How can I find peace in my life?" The master looked around at the garden, then pointed to a flower in full bloom. "Do you see that flower?" the master asked. "It is beautiful, but it does not worry about tomorrow. It does not regret its past. It simply exists in this moment, blooming as it was meant to." The secret to happiness is to live as this flower does, fully present in the moment, without attachment to what was or what might be. The student, after hearing these words, sat quietly in the garden, observing the flower. In that moment, he understood the lesson of living in the present. The flower did not try to be something it was not, and it did not cling to its past petals. It simply bloomed, and in doing so, it found its natural beauty. Letting go of distractions. In order to truly live in the present moment, we must let go of the distractions that keep us from being fully engaged in our lives. Modern life is filled with distractions: social media, work, constant notifications, and a never-ending list of tasks. These distractions keep our minds scattered, preventing us from experiencing the present moment. Buddhism teaches that in order to find true peace, we must cultivate stillness and clarity by letting go of these distractions. The practice of meditation is one way to cultivate mindfulness and develop the ability to focus on the present. By setting aside time each day to meditate, we can train our minds to become more aware of the present moment and less entangled in the distractions of the past and future. A call to action: embrace the present. As you go about your day, I encourage you to take a moment to pause and focus on the present. Whether you are walking, eating, or simply breathing, bring your awareness to the present moment. Let go of any worries about the past or future, and embrace the gift of now. If you found these teachings helpful, I encourage you to share this wisdom with others. Like and subscribe to our channel, and join us in this journey toward mindfulness and peace. Together, we can live more fully in the present moment, embracing each breath, each step, and each experience with clarity and joy. The present moment is the doorway to peace, and it is always available to us. When we focus on the here and now, we can find the tranquility that we seek, right where we are. So, let's take a deep breath, be present, and walk together toward a life of peace and wisdom. Lesson 2: Thoughts are like clouds. In the vastness of Buddhist teachings, one of the most profound and liberating insights we can gain is the understanding that thoughts are impermanent, much like clouds in the sky. This simple yet powerful metaphor can transform the way we perceive and interact with our thoughts. In our day-to-day lives, how often do we find ourselves tangled in the web of our own thoughts? The mind spins endlessly, racing from one thought to another, like a fast-moving river. These thoughts can become overwhelming, consuming our attention and leading us to identify so strongly with them that they start to define who we are. But in the Buddhist tradition, there is a deeper understanding that thoughts are not us. They are temporary, fleeting, and ever-changing, much like the clouds in the sky. The Buddhist teachings on the mind and thought patterns are designed to help us break free from the endless cycle of overthinking. In Buddhism, overthinking is often seen as the cause of suffering. When we attach ourselves to our thoughts and let them dominate our mind, we create unnecessary stress and confusion. The challenge is to learn to approach our thoughts with mindfulness and detachment, allowing them to come and go like clouds drifting across the sky. The fleeting nature of thoughts. In the Buddhist view, the mind is not something fixed. It is in a constant state of flux. Just as clouds change shape, size, and direction, so do our thoughts. They rise, they fade, they shift in and out of consciousness, and yet, they are not permanent. Our mistake, often, is to believe that these transient thoughts define us or hold power over us. The Buddha taught that thoughts are not to be clung to or chased after. They are simply phenomena that arise and pass away. When we cling to our thoughts, when we overanalyze or obsess over them, we are like someone who tries to hold on to a passing cloud. We cannot control the wind or the weather, and similarly, we cannot control the flow of our thoughts. The key is to let them pass without attachment. A particularly pointed teaching from Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness. This practice encourages us to observe our thoughts, without judgment, and without attachment. Just like sitting by a river and watching the water flow, we are invited to sit quietly and observe the flow of our thoughts. Rather than identifying with them, we simply watch them come and go, knowing that more thoughts will follow, just as the river continues to flow. A personal story, watching thoughts like clouds. I remember a profound experience I had during a meditation retreat, where I was introduced to the practice of observing my thoughts like clouds. At first, it was incredibly challenging. As I sat in meditation, my mind became a whirlwind of thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, worries, desires, judgments. I found myself grasping at these thoughts, trying to figure out what to do with them, how to make sense of them. But the teacher guiding the retreat gently reminded us, don't hold on to them. Let them come and go like clouds. At that moment, I realized how much energy I had been expending by trying to control my thoughts. Each time a thought appeared, I would either follow it, resisting it, or trying to push it away. What a strain it was. However, as I practiced this mindfulness technique of observing my thoughts without attachment, something beautiful happened. I began to feel lighter. I could see thoughts entering my mind, but I didn't need to chase after them. I allowed them to pass, one after another, without clinging to any of them. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time, I understood what the Buddha meant when he said that the mind is like the sky, vast, clear, and free, yet constantly shifting. With this new understanding, I felt a sense of freedom I had never known before. The thoughts no longer held power over me. I was simply the observer, not the thinker. This shift in perspective allowed me to embrace life more fully, without being caught in the endless loop of overthinking. I realized that, like the clouds, my thoughts did not need to define me. The Buddhist approach to thoughts, detached awareness. The core principle in Buddhism when it comes to thoughts is the practice of detached awareness. This means that we are not denying or suppressing our thoughts. We are not trying to get rid of them, but rather, we are observing them with mindfulness, without attaching to them. We are not identifying with them as our thoughts. We are simply acknowledging their presence and allowing them to pass, knowing they are transient and do not hold lasting power over us. There's a profound lesson in this approach. By watching our thoughts without attachment, we begin to loosen our grip on them. We no longer need to be consumed by them, and this freedom from overthinking leads to a peaceful, clear mind. The Buddha taught that attachment to anything, including thoughts, is the root of suffering. When we let go of this attachment, we break free from the cycle of craving and aversion that keeps us in a state of suffering. To illustrate this, consider a story from the life of one of the Buddha's disciples, Ananda. One day, as Ananda was walking through the forest, he found himself disturbed by a troubling thought that kept arising in his mind. The thought was about a disagreement he had with a fellow monk. No matter how hard he tried, the thought would not leave him. Ananda went to the Buddha and asked, "How can I rid myself of this troubling thought? It comes again and again, and I cannot stop it." The Buddha, with his usual compassion and wisdom, replied, "Ananda, just as a cloud in the sky moves across the horizon and then dissipates, so too should your thoughts. Do not chase after them, for they are like clouds, impermanent. When a cloud appears in the sky, you do not try to grasp it, you simply wait, and it passes." Ananda was struck by the simplicity of the Buddha's advice. He returned to his meditation, remembering the image of the cloud. As he practiced, he noticed that the thought eventually faded, just as the Buddha had said it would. This story beautifully illustrates the Buddhist approach to thought. By not clinging to it, it naturally fades away. The danger of identifying with thoughts. One of the key challenges we face in the modern world is the tendency to identify too strongly with our thoughts. We often think that our thoughts are who we are, that they define us. For instance, if we have thoughts of anger, we might say to ourselves, "I am an angry person." If we have thoughts of sadness, we might identify ourselves as being a sad person. But in reality, our thoughts are only one aspect of our experience. They are not our identity. Buddhism teaches that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind the thoughts, the observer. When we start to identify with our thoughts, we lose touch with this true nature and become caught in a cycle of judgment, desire, and aversion. We begin to believe that every thought must be taken seriously, that every fleeting thought must be followed or acted upon. The practice of mindfulness teaches us to detach from our thoughts and simply observe them. We begin to see them as visitors appearing, staying for a time, and then leaving. This allows us to cultivate a deeper sense of peace, as we are no longer overwhelmed by the endless stream of thoughts that typically cloud our minds. Letting thoughts go, a Buddhist practice. In many Buddhist meditation practices, such as Vipassana or Zen, practitioners are encouraged to simply observe their thoughts without judgment. This practice allows us to develop a sense of clarity and awareness, freeing us from the mental clutter that often weighs us down. As we cultivate this awareness, we begin to experience moments of peace that arise naturally when we stop attaching to our thoughts. An essential part of this practice is learning to observe the thoughts that arise without engaging with them. For example, during meditation, you may notice a thought arise, such as "I'm feeling anxious about work." Rather than dwelling on it, you simply acknowledge it. Anxiety is here. You don't chase the thought, and you don't push it away. Instead, you let it be, knowing that it will pass, just like a cloud in the sky. This process of observing without attachment is incredibly liberating. It is a practice that requires patience and discipline. but the rewards are profound. By learning to let go of our attachment to thoughts, we can begin to experience the world as it truly is, clear, open, and free of the mental clutter that often clouds our perceptions. Call to action: embrace the cloud-like nature of thoughts. If you find yourself overwhelmed by your thoughts, I encourage you to take a moment and practice observing them without attachment. The next time a thought arises, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and simply observe it as you would a cloud passing across the sky. Notice how it appears, and then let it go. If you have found this teaching helpful, I invite you to subscribe and share it with others who might benefit from learning to detach from their thoughts. Remember, the next time you feel overwhelmed by your mind, simply return to the present moment, breathe deeply, and watch your thoughts pass like clouds. With practice, you will find that peace comes naturally when you let go of the need to control your thoughts. As we walk this path together, let us continue to observe our thoughts without attachment, knowing that, just like the clouds, they are not permanent, and they do not define us. In this freedom, we find true peace. Lesson 3: Overthinking creates suffering. In the teachings of Buddhism, one of the most subtle yet profound causes of suffering is overthinking. We often find ourselves trapped in a cycle of analysis, worrying about the future, reflecting on past mistakes, or obsessing over outcomes that are beyond our control. This incessant overthinking, the endless questioning of what if, or how could this have been different, becomes a source of mental anguish. The Buddha, with his deep understanding of the human condition, taught that suffering does not arise from external events but rather from our reactions to them. It is said that the mind, when left unchecked, becomes a breeding ground for anxiety, fear, and doubt. This internal turbulence can cloud our clarity, make us feel overwhelmed, and ultimately lead to a sense of discontent. Overthinking is the fertile soil from which these feelings grow. Yet, Buddhism offers us a path to freedom from the tyranny of the mind. The key lies in understanding that we do not need to control every aspect of our lives. Sometimes, we must simply let go and trust the flow of life. The Buddhist perspective on overthinking. Buddhism teaches us that our minds are not inherently the problem. It is our attachment to them, our identification with them, that causes suffering. The Buddha likened the mind to a wild elephant, restless and untamed. When we let the mind roam freely, unguarded, it will wander into all sorts of dark corners, fears, doubts, regrets. And just like an elephant charging through a forest, the damage it causes can be immense. The Buddhist teachings on mindfulness, specifically the practice of observing the mind without attachment, offer a solution. By learning to observe our thoughts without reacting to them, we begin to recognize the impermanent nature of our mental experiences. Thoughts come and go, like clouds in the sky. They are not permanent, and they do not define us. But when we cling to them, when we try to control them, we invite suffering into our lives. The Buddha said, "We are shaped by our thoughts, we become what we think." If we constantly feed our minds with worries about the future or regrets about the past, we are cultivating a mind that is perpetually in turmoil. Over time, this mind can become a source of deep suffering. But if we can learn to release the grip on our thoughts, we can experience peace. The story of the boulder, letting go of the uncontrollable. One of the most powerful teachings I have encountered regarding overthinking comes from the renowned Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. In his book The Heart of the Buddhist Teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh shared a story that perfectly illustrates the futility of overthinking. There was once a man who spent hours pushing a heavy boulder uphill. Despite his best efforts, the boulder never moved. Sweat dripped from his brow, and his muscles ached with the strain of his efforts. Yet, the boulder remained immovable, stubbornly defying his attempts. Frustrated and exhausted, the man continued to push, convinced that somehow, if he just pushed a little harder, the boulder would move. Thich Nhat Hanh, observing this, walked over to the man and asked, "Why are you pushing a boulder that is not moving?" The man paused for a moment, looked at the monk, and then replied, "I must keep pushing. I need to move this boulder. I must make it budge." The monk smiled gently and said, "The boulder is not going to move. You are wasting your energy. The most empowering thing you can do is to stop pushing and accept that the boulder is not yours to move." This simple yet profound story teaches us an important lesson. There are many things in life that we simply cannot control. No matter how hard we try to manipulate or force outcomes, some things remain beyond our influence. And yet, we waste so much energy, mental, emotional, and even physical, trying to push against what is. When we learn to let go of these futile struggles, we experience true freedom and peace. The boulder in the story symbolizes the burdens we carry in our minds. The worries, fears, and anxieties about things we cannot change. Overthinking often arises from a desire to control these uncontrollable aspects of our lives. But like the boulder, no amount of effort will make them move. The true liberation comes when we stop trying to move what cannot be moved and instead focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. My personal experience: letting go of control. In my own life, I have encountered numerous situations where overthinking and trying to control every aspect of my day led to frustration and anxiety. There were times when I would plan every detail of a project, anticipating every possible outcome, only to realize that I was exhausting myself over something that was ultimately out of my control. I would worry about the smallest details, like what someone might think of me or whether my efforts would be good enough. It was during a retreat that I began to realize how much mental energy I was wasting by holding on to the need for control. One day, I was sitting in meditation when I noticed a recurring thought. What if this meditation doesn't work? What if I'm not doing it right? I found myself caught in a loop of worry, overthinking the process. But then, I remembered the teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh's story. I paused and asked myself, why am I pushing a boulder that is not moving? With that question, something shifted within me. I realized that the more I tried to control the meditation experience, the more I was blocking its natural flow. So, I decided to let go of the need to control it. Instead of trying to perfect the experience, I allowed myself to simply be with it, without judgment or expectation. As soon as I let go of that control, the meditation became effortless. The thoughts began to fade away, and I was able to experience a deep sense of peace. This experience was a powerful reminder that control is often an illusion. We cannot control the course of events, the thoughts that arise in our minds, or the actions of others. The more we fight against reality, the more suffering we create for ourselves. But when we accept things as they are, we can experience true freedom. The path to freedom: acceptance and surrender. Buddhism teaches that true freedom comes from acceptance and surrender. This does not mean passivity or resignation. Rather, it means acknowledging that there are things beyond our control and choosing to focus our energy on what we can change. The Buddha taught that we should not struggle against what is, but instead, we should cultivate an attitude of acceptance. By letting go of the need to control every outcome, we allow ourselves to experience peace, knowing that things are unfolding as they should. In his famous teaching on the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha explained that suffering arises from our attachment to things, including our thoughts, emotions, and desires. When we cling to the idea that things should be different from what they are, we invite suffering. But when we release that attachment and accept things as they are, we can move beyond suffering. Acceptance is not about giving up or resigning to a life of passivity. It is about recognizing that there is a natural flow to life, and sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to stop fighting against it. This doesn't mean we stop taking action, rather, it means that we take action from a place of clarity and calm, not from a place of fear or anxiety. Call to action: let go of what you cannot control. If you find yourself overwhelmed by overthinking, I encourage you to take a step back and ask yourself, what is the boulder that I am trying to push? What am I holding onto that I cannot control? Once you identify what you are struggling with, take a deep breath and release your grip. Let go of the need to control outcomes and trust that life will unfold as it should. This practice of letting go can be incredibly liberating. When we stop overthinking and start accepting the present moment as it is, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and experiences. We are no longer weighed down by the need to control everything, and we are free to live in the flow of life. If you found this lesson helpful, I invite you to share it with others who may benefit from learning to let go of control. Subscribe to our channel for more insights on the Buddhist path to peace and freedom. Together, we can release the burdens of overthinking and live more fully in the present moment. The boulder is not ours to move, but peace is always within our reach when we let go of what we cannot control. Lesson 4. Practice mindfulness. In the Buddhist tradition, mindfulness is a central practice. One that anchors us in the present moment, free from judgment and distraction. It is a practice of presence, of being fully aware of the here and now. To the untrained mind, this may seem simple, even mundane. Yet, the wisdom embedded in mindfulness is profound. It is through mindfulness that we can begin to unravel the tangled web of thoughts, emotions, and distractions that cloud our minds and prevent us from experiencing the true nature of life. Mindfulness is not just about sitting in meditation or quieting the mind for a few moments each day. It is a way of being, a way of living with awareness. Each breath we take, each sensation we feel, each sound we hear, mindfulness encourages us to pay attention to it all without clinging to it, without judgment, and without trying to change it. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness. The Buddha himself emphasized the importance of mindfulness, or sati in Pali, as a way to end suffering. He taught that mindfulness is not simply the act of being aware. It is a tool for observing the workings of the mind and the impermanent nature of all things. According to Buddhist philosophy, the root cause of suffering is not external events themselves, but our attachment to them, our craving, and our aversion. This attachment comes from ignorance of the true nature of things. Mindfulness helps us see things as they truly are, without the distortion of personal desire or fear. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness revolve around the four foundations of mindfulness: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of phenomena. These foundations help us to develop awareness in all aspects of our lives, allowing us to see the transient nature of thoughts, emotions, and even the body itself. Mindfulness of the body teaches us to be aware of the body's sensations, its movements, and the way it interacts with the environment. Mindfulness of feelings involves being aware of our emotional responses, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, without identifying with them or being controlled by them. Mindfulness of the mind requires awareness of the thoughts that arise in the mind, recognizing them for what they are: fleeting mental states that come and go. Mindfulness of phenomena is the awareness of everything in the world, understanding that everything is impermanent, and nothing has an inherent, permanent nature. The Buddha emphasized that it is not enough to simply know about mindfulness. We must practice it. In fact, the practice of mindfulness is considered a path to liberation, a path that leads to freedom from suffering and the cultivation of wisdom. The act of paying attention, of being present, allows us to see the nature of things as they are and break free from the habitual patterns of thought that cause suffering. My personal experience with mindfulness. I recall a time in my life when I was overwhelmed by the demands of work and personal responsibilities. I found myself constantly distracted, unable to focus on anything for more than a few moments at a time. My mind was a storm of worries about the future, regrets about the past, and anxieties about what was to come. I felt like I was constantly running in circles, unable to catch my breath, let alone make any real progress in my work or my life. One day, a close friend noticed my struggle and suggested that I try mindfulness meditation. At first, I was skeptical. How could simply sitting still and focusing on my breath make any difference? But I was desperate for peace, so I decided to give it a try. I sat quietly, closing my eyes, and brought my attention to my breath. I simply observed the inhale and exhale, noticing the sensation of air entering and leaving my body. My mind, however, was anything but still. It raced from one thought to another, pulling me away from the present moment. But each time I became aware that my mind had wandered, I gently returned my focus to the breath. At first, it was difficult. I was not accustomed to sitting in stillness, and the thoughts in my mind seemed insistent and overpowering. But over time, with practice, I began to notice a shift. The more I practiced mindfulness, the more I became aware of the fleeting nature of my thoughts and emotions. I no longer felt trapped by them. I began to realize that thoughts and feelings are impermanent. They arise, they stay for a while, and then they fade away. Just like the clouds in the sky, no thought or feeling is permanent. It is only through mindfulness that we can recognize this truth and free ourselves from the grip of overthinking. Slowly but surely, I started to regain control over my mind. I was able to focus on the present moment without being distracted by past regrets or future anxieties. I could enjoy the simple act of breathing, of sitting, of being. And this newfound peace carried over into my everyday life. I became more productive, more calm, and more compassionate. I realized that mindfulness was not just a practice for meditation, but a way of living. The power of breath in mindfulness. One of the simplest and most powerful ways to practice mindfulness is through the breath. The breath is always with us, and it is an anchor to the present moment. In many forms of mindfulness meditation, the practitioner is encouraged to focus on the breath as a way of calming the mind and bringing attention back to the present moment. Why the breath? The breath is the most immediate and accessible aspect of our experience. It connects us to the present moment in a way that nothing else can. Every breath we take is a reminder that we are alive, that we are here, in this moment, fully present. The Buddha taught that we should observe the breath with full awareness, noticing its qualities, whether it is deep or shallow, fast or slow, smooth or irregular. This simple act of observation helps us to let go of distractions and return to the present moment. When our minds are cluttered with thoughts, focusing on the breath allows us to quiet the noise and cultivate inner stillness. In the Satipatthana Sutta, one of the most important Buddhist texts on mindfulness, the Buddha describes the practice of breathing as a way to develop awareness and insight. He encourages practitioners to breathe in long, knowing that they are breathing in long. Breathe out long, knowing that they are breathing out long. This simple instruction teaches us to be fully present with the breath, without judgment or expectation. By doing so, we cultivate a deep sense of mindfulness that extends to all areas of life. A story of mindfulness, the monk and the farmer. There is a beautiful story from the Zen tradition that illustrates the power of mindfulness in everyday life. It is the story of a monk and a farmer. One day, a Zen monk visited a small village and decided to spend the day with a humble farmer. The monk had heard of the farmer's wisdom and wanted to learn from him. The farmer, while working in his fields, was known for his calm demeanor and ability to remain present, no matter how difficult the work was. The monk asked the farmer, "How is it that you are always so calm, so peaceful, despite the demands of your work?" The farmer smiled and said, "I simply do what needs to be done. When I am plowing the field, I am fully present with the plow. When I am planting the seeds, I am fully present with the earth. I do not think about the past or the future. I only focus on what I am doing in the moment." The monk, impressed by the farmer's response, asked, "But what if there are difficulties, obstacles, or distractions? How do you remain so calm then?" The farmer paused for a moment and then replied, "The difficulties are part of the work. When I encounter them, I do not resist them. I simply face them with awareness. I acknowledge the difficulty, and I continue to work with it. I do not let my mind wander to what could go wrong or what has already happened. I remain focused on the task at hand, and in doing so, I find peace." This story beautifully illustrates the essence of mindfulness. The farmer's practice is not about escaping challenges or avoiding difficulties. It is about being present with them, accepting them as they are, and responding with awareness rather than reacting with fear or frustration. Mindfulness is not about seeking perfection or avoiding discomfort. It is about fully experiencing the present moment, whatever it may bring. Call to action: embrace the present moment. Mindfulness is a practice that we can carry with us throughout our day, not just when we are sitting in meditation. It is about bringing awareness to everything we do: the way we breathe, the way we walk, the way we eat, the way we listen to others. Each moment is an opportunity to practice mindfulness, to be fully present, and to experience life with clarity and peace. If you find yourself struggling with distractions or overwhelmed by the chaos of life, I encourage you to start small. Take a few moments each day to focus on your breath. Sit quietly, observe your breath, and bring your attention back to the present moment. Notice how your thoughts come and go, but do not cling to them. Let them drift away, like clouds in the sky. As you continue to practice mindfulness, you will begin to see how it transforms your life. You will become more present, more peaceful, and more connected to the world around you. And as you cultivate this awareness, you will find that your mind becomes quieter, your heart becomes lighter, and your life becomes richer. If this teaching has resonated with you, I invite you to share it with others. Subscribe to our channel for more insights on mindfulness and Buddhist teachings. Together, let us practice mindfulness, embracing the present moment, and discovering the peace that is always within us. Lesson 5: Simplicity is freedom. In a world that thrives on speed, complexity, and excess, simplicity can feel like a forgotten virtue. We live in a time where we are constantly bombarded by distractions, expectations, and societal pressures to accumulate more possessions, more success, more validation. Yet, amid this chaos, Buddhism offers a profound teaching. True peace and happiness can be found in simplicity. The Buddha, in his quest for enlightenment, realized that one of the greatest obstacles to peace is the attachment to complexity and desire. As human beings, we tend to complicate our lives by chasing after things that promise happiness but ultimately lead to dissatisfaction. The endless pursuit of material possessions, social status, and external validation only serves to increase our desires, which, in turn, creates suffering. The path to true freedom, according to the Buddha, lies not in acquiring more, but in letting go of what we do not need both physically and mentally. The essence of simplicity in Buddhist teachings. Buddhist philosophy teaches that the more we simplify our lives, the more we open ourselves to freedom. This simplicity is not just about reducing physical clutter but also about letting go of mental clutter, the worries, fears, and anxieties that cloud our minds and prevent us from experiencing life as it truly is. By embracing simplicity, we begin to understand the impermanence of everything around us. We begin to realize that true peace does not come from external circumstances but from within. From our ability to detach from the things we think we need. The Buddhist teachings on simplicity are grounded in the principle of renunciation, not as an act of rejection, but as an act of liberation. Renunciation, in this context, means letting go of attachment to material things and desires that create suffering. It is not about abandoning the world, but about freeing ourselves from the need to control, accumulate, or possess. The Buddha encouraged his followers to live a simple life, focusing on what truly matters: mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. This does not mean that we must all live as monks or renounce everything we own. Instead, it is about prioritizing what is truly important and letting go of the unnecessary burdens we carry. When we simplify our lives, we can begin to see things more clearly, without the distortion of ego, desire, and distraction. The simplicity we seek is not just in our actions, but in our minds as well. A Zen master's wisdom: the simpler the life, the more profound the meaning. I remember a story about a Zen master who lived in a small, humble temple in the mountains. One day, a young student came to him, overwhelmed by the complexities of life. The student was struggling with balancing his work, relationships, and spiritual practice. He felt pulled in many directions, unsure of how to find peace amidst the chaos of his responsibilities. In a moment of frustration, the student asked the Zen master, "Master, how can I find peace in this world filled with so much noise and distraction?" The Zen master smiled and replied, "The simpler the life, the more profound the meaning." At first, the student didn't understand the master's words. He thought that the Zen master was merely suggesting that he should live a simpler life, free from distractions. But the master's words carried a deeper meaning. The Zen master was teaching the student that simplicity is not just about reducing the number of things in one's life, but about cultivating a simple mind, one that is not attached to external things, one that is not overwhelmed by desires or fears. The simplicity the master spoke of was a profound freedom from the internal distractions that prevent us from living fully in the present moment. It is not about rejecting life or abandoning responsibilities, but about approaching life with a clear, uncluttered mind, one that is fully engaged with the present moment, without being weighed down by past regrets or future anxieties. The student, realizing the depth of the master's words, spent the next several months in the temple, practicing mindfulness and focusing on the simplicity of the present moment. Slowly, the student began to understand that peace does not come from acquiring more things or achieving more success. It comes from letting go of the need for more, and embracing life as it is, in its simplest form. The mental and emotional clutter we carry. In our modern world, we are not only burdened by physical possessions, but also by emotional and mental clutter. Our minds are constantly filled with thoughts, worries about the future, regrets about the past, judgments about ourselves and others. These mental distractions prevent us from fully experiencing life and enjoying the peace that comes with being present. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a garden. If we allow weeds of distraction, worry, and attachment to grow unchecked, they will overrun the garden, leaving no room for peace, clarity, or wisdom. But if we cultivate the garden of our mind through mindfulness, simplicity, and detachment, we create space for the beautiful flowers of happiness, peace, and contentment to bloom. In Buddhist meditation, there is a practice called vipassana, or insight meditation, which helps us observe the nature of our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. Through this practice, We learn to see thoughts as they arise, acknowledge them, and then let them go. We do not hold on to them, we do not judge them, and we do not identify with them. We simply observe them, knowing that they are impermanent and will pass in time. The practice of mindfulness allows us to simplify our mental landscape. Instead of being constantly bombarded by thoughts, we learn to observe them with clarity and detachment. We no longer need to chase every thought or emotion. Instead, we can let them arise and pass, like clouds drifting across the sky. My own journey toward simplicity. In my own life, I found that the more I simplified my external world, the more peace I experienced internally. I used to be caught up in the pursuit of material things, chasing after the latest trends, striving for a bigger house, more money, and more recognition. I thought that these external markers of success would bring me happiness. But the more I accumulated, the more I realized that I was still restless, still yearning for something more. It wasn't until I began to simplify my priorities and focus on what truly mattered, my relationships, my health, and my spiritual practice, that I began to experience a deeper sense of fulfillment. I let go of the need for validation and approval from others, and instead focused on being true to myself. I spent less time worrying about what others thought and more time cultivating my inner peace. As I let go of the attachment to material things and external achievements, I felt a greater sense of freedom and contentment. I also simplified my mind by practicing mindfulness meditation. Each day, I would sit quietly and focus on my breath, bringing my attention back to the present moment whenever my mind wandered. At first, this practice was difficult. My mind was cluttered with thoughts and distractions, but over time, I began to notice a shift. My thoughts became less overwhelming, and I felt a greater sense of calm and clarity. I no longer felt the need to control everything in my life. I began to trust that everything would unfold as it should, and I found peace in simply being present. The beauty of simplicity, a Buddhist story. There is a beautiful story from the Zen tradition that illustrates the power of simplicity in both action and thought. A Zen master was once asked by a student, "What is the essence of Zen?" The master replied, "The essence of Zen is simply this: when you eat, eat. When you sleep, sleep." At first, the student was puzzled. "What does that mean, Master?" he asked. The master explained, "When you eat, be fully present with your food. Do not think about what you will do next or worry about what you have done before. Just eat. When you sleep, be fully present with sleep. Do not carry the weight of the day's events into your rest. Simply sleep." This story captures the essence of mindfulness and simplicity. The master was teaching the student that the key to peace and happiness is to fully engage with each moment, without distraction or attachment. By living simply and focusing on what is right in front of us, we can experience the depth and richness of life. We don't need to complicate things by worrying about what might happen next or regretting what has already passed. The simplicity of living in the present moment is the gateway to true freedom. Call to action: embrace simplicity. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the complexities of life, I encourage you to take a step back and simplify. Start by focusing on the present moment. Be fully aware of each breath you take, each step you make, each word you speak. Let go of the need to control every aspect of your life and allow things to unfold naturally. Remember, simplicity is not about denying yourself the pleasures of life. It is about letting go of the attachments that cause suffering. It is about living with clarity, without being weighed down by unnecessary distractions. As you practice mindfulness and simplify your life, you will begin to experience a greater sense of peace, freedom, and fulfillment. If this lesson has resonated with you, I invite you to share it with others who may benefit from the wisdom of simplicity. Subscribe to our channel for more insights into Buddhist teachings on living a peaceful and meaningful life. Together, let us walk the path of simplicity and freedom, and discover the profound meaning that lies in each simple moment. Lesson 6. Trust and Impermanence. The Buddhist concept of impermanence is perhaps one of the most powerful teachings to embrace in our lives. It is both a profound insight into the nature of reality and a practice that helps us navigate the inevitable ups and downs of existence with wisdom and equanimity. Impermanence, or anicca in Pali, refers to the fundamental truth that everything is in a constant state of change. Nothing, whether it's the joy we feel in moments of happiness or the pain we endure during times of hardship, lasts forever. This teaching is not just an abstract philosophy, it is a lived experience. One that we encounter every day in the ebb and flow of life. The impermanence of things can bring great peace when we learn to accept it. And it can be a source of tremendous liberation. By trusting in impermanence, we realize that nothing is permanent, neither our suffering nor our joy. And through this understanding, we can begin to let go of our attachment to things, circumstances, and even our very identities, knowing that everything changes in its own time. The Buddha's wisdom, all conditioned things are impermanent. When the Buddha spoke about impermanence, he often reminded his disciples that all things in the world, both physical and mental, are conditioned and impermanent. In the Dhammapada, one of the most well-known Buddhist texts, the Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." This teaching encapsulates the essence of impermanence and its significance in our lives. Everything that arises, everything that is created, is subject to change, decay, and ultimately, dissolution. This includes our thoughts, emotions, relationships, and the circumstances we find ourselves in. Understanding this truth about impermanence can be a powerful tool in overcoming suffering. Much of our pain arises from the attachment to things, our desire for things to remain the same, and our resistance to the natural course of life. We wish for things to stay as they are, for happiness to last forever, or for suffering to never touch us. But the Buddha teaches us that nothing is permanent, and in that truth, there is freedom. This teaching is not to be seen as pessimistic or fatalistic. On the contrary, it is liberating. By understanding the impermanent nature of all things, we are invited to release our grip on what we cannot hold onto and embrace the flow of life as it is, without fear or resistance. The paradox of attachment, holding on to the unavoidable. We often resist impermanence, not understanding that it is a fundamental aspect of existence. Our natural inclination is to attach ourselves to people, possessions, experiences, and even our own identities. We want to hold on to the good moments in life, and when we face difficulties, we desperately wish for them to end quickly. But in doing so, we become entangled in suffering, because we are constantly fighting against the nature of change. The more we cling to things, the more we suffer when they inevitably change. For example, imagine a beautiful flower blooming in the spring. We may marvel at its delicate petals and vibrant colors, and for a time, we bask in its beauty. But if we become overly attached to the flower, holding onto the illusion that it will remain forever, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Eventually, the petals will fall, and the flower will wither. But this is the nature of flowers, it is their impermanence that makes them so precious in the moment. Similarly, we hold on to relationships, experiences, and even our own ideas of who we are. But everything in life is subject to change. When we can accept this impermanence, we find that we are no longer devastated when things change or end. Instead, we can appreciate each moment for what it is, without clinging to it, knowing that everything is part of the ever-changing cycle of life. A Buddhist story of impermanence, The Monk and the Old Man. There is a poignant story from the Zen tradition that beautifully illustrates the lesson of impermanence. A young monk once visited a wise elder in the mountains, seeking answers to his questions about life and suffering. The monk was troubled by his inability to find peace, constantly consumed by his thoughts and anxieties. The elder monk, seeing the young monk's suffering, decided to give him a simple yet profound lesson. One day, the elder monk asked the young monk to accompany him on a walk. As they walked through the forest, they came across an old man sitting beneath a tree, looking at a small stream flowing by. The old man was smiling, radiating a calm presence. The young monk, curious, asked the elder monk, "Why does that man seem so peaceful? He is old, his life is coming to an end, and yet he seems so content." The elder monk smiled and said, "Watch carefully, and you will see that he understands the truth of impermanence." They sat beside the old man, who continued to gaze at the stream. The young monk watched, noticing how the man's eyes would follow the water's flow, observing the changes in the current, the leaves floating downstream, and the occasional ripple that would disturb the water's surface. After some time, the old man turned to the monk and said, "Do you see the water? It never stays still. It constantly moves, changes, and flows. Just like the water, our lives flow in the same way. We must learn to flow with the changes, accepting that all things come and go, rise and fall, just as the river does." The young monk, moved by the simplicity of the old man's words, began to understand. The old man was not clinging to the past or fearing the future. He had embraced the natural flow of life, accepting its impermanence. In doing so, he had found peace. The young monk realized that his suffering arose from resisting change, from trying to hold on to things that were meant to change. This story is a powerful reminder that, just like the river, we must learn to flow with life. We cannot stop the changes, but we can learn to embrace them, to trust that each moment is fleeting and that the next moment will bring something new. The role of overthinking in suffering, letting go of what we cannot control. One of the greatest sources of suffering in our lives is overthinking. We often become trapped in our minds, endlessly analyzing the past or worrying about the future. This overthinking is rooted in our desire to control what is beyond our control. When we struggle against the impermanent nature of things, we create mental suffering. Overthinking is a form of resistance to the natural flow of life. It is a mental attachment to the idea that we can somehow control the outcome of situations, or that we can fix everything that causes us discomfort. But in reality, much of what we worry about is beyond our control. No matter how much we analyze or obsess, we cannot change the impermanence of life. In Buddhist practice, the goal is to cultivate mindfulness and awareness of the present moment. When we are fully present, we can begin to see the impermanence of our thoughts and feelings. Just as our thoughts arise and pass, so too do our emotions and experiences. When we accept that everything is temporary, we can stop overthinking and release the need to control. The Buddhist teachings encourage us to let go of this attachment to permanence, to stop trying to hold on to things that are bound to change. Instead, we can focus on the present moment, knowing that everything will shift in its own time. This allows us to experience life more fully, without the burden of overthinking or attachment. Trusting in the impermanence of our struggles. One of the most comforting aspects of the teaching of impermanence is that it reminds us that our struggles, no matter how difficult, are also temporary. When we are going through tough times, it can feel like the pain will never end. But impermanence teaches us that all things, including suffering, are temporary. The Buddha's words, "Strive on with diligence," remind us that even in our most challenging moments, we must continue on the path, knowing that change is inevitable. Just as a storm will eventually pass, so too will our difficulties. The key is to trust in the natural flow of life, knowing that our current situation is not permanent. This understanding can provide tremendous relief during times of hardship. We can cultivate patience and acceptance, knowing that everything, including our struggles, is subject to change. A call to action: embrace impermanence. When we trust in impermanence, we free ourselves from the mental and emotional burdens that come with attachment. We no longer need to cling to the past or fear the future. We can embrace the present moment fully, knowing that it is the only moment we truly have. If you are struggling with worry, overthinking, or resistance to change, I encourage you to reflect on the nature of impermanence. Take a moment to observe your thoughts and feelings, and recognize that they are temporary. Allow them to come and go without attachment. Trust that, just as the seasons change, so too will your current situation. By trusting in impermanence, we can find peace in the midst of uncertainty. We can let go of the need to control and surrender to the flow of life. This is the wisdom of the Buddha, and it is a wisdom that can bring us profound peace and freedom. If this teaching resonates with you, I invite you to share it with others who may benefit from the reminder that everything is impermanent. Subscribe to our channel for more insights on Buddhist teachings and how to live with greater mindfulness and peace. Together, let's embrace the impermanence of life and trust that each moment, each experience, is part of the ever-changing flow of existence. Conclusion and call to action. As we come to the end of this video, I hope you now have a deeper understanding of how overthinking can steal our peace and how ancient Buddhist wisdom offers the way to break free from this cycle. The teachings we've explored today are timeless. And while they are powerful, they are only truly effective when we apply them to our own lives. Buddhism teaches us that life is impermanent. And this understanding can be our greatest ally when facing the chaos of overthinking. The moment we embrace the impermanence of our thoughts, we free ourselves from their grip. Remember, the key isn't about trying to eliminate every thought or feeling, but rather about observing them without attachment. We are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind them. When we recognize this, we can create space for peace to enter our minds. But knowing these teachings isn't enough. It's up to each one of us to take the first step. The first step is being present. As simple as it sounds, the practice of bringing our full awareness to the present moment is one of the most effective tools we can use to stop overthinking. The next time you feel your mind racing, take a deep breath. Bring your attention to your breath, to the sensations in your body, to the sounds around you. By focusing on the present moment, you gently quiet the noise in your mind and allow peace to settle in. The second step is letting go. Let go of the unnecessary thoughts and worries that only weigh you down. Let go of the need to control every outcome. Trust that, like everything else, your worries will also pass. Just as the Buddha teaches us to focus on what we can control: our actions, our thoughts, our responses, let go of the things beyond your reach. This practice of surrendering to the flow of life can bring a profound sense of freedom. Finally, trust in the impermanence of all things. No matter what challenges you face or what emotions arise, remember that everything is temporary. The difficult moments you are experiencing right now are not permanent. They will change, just as everything else does. When we understand this truth, we can stop fighting against reality and start living more peacefully in the present moment. So, I encourage you to take action today. Try incorporating these practices into your life. Focus on the present moment. Let go of your attachment to thoughts and outcomes. Trust that change is inevitable and embrace the impermanence of life. The more you practice, the easier it will become to quiet your mind and find inner peace. as you embark on this journey of mindfulness and inner peace. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Let's create a supportive community where we can all learn from each other and grow together on this path to tranquility. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who may benefit from these teachings. Don't forget to subscribe to Buddhist Stories for more content that explores the wisdom of Buddhism and how it can help us live more peaceful, mindful lives. Together, let's continue to walk the path of mindfulness and inner peace. Remember, peace begins with you. In the next video, we will explore more ways to cultivate mindfulness in our everyday lives. We'll look at practical techniques to stay grounded, even in the midst of chaos. Stay tuned, and may you continue your journey toward lasting peace. Thank you for being part of Buddhist Stories, and remember, the journey to inner peace is not a destination, but a way of living. Let's walk this path together.